Hey everybody, welcome to another app Ping here at VitalMX. Let's get started with our questions. First one comes from Curious George. It says, hi David, high praise for everything I've seen or read produced by you. Pre-COVID, I had a chance to walk a supercross track as a spectator. Most, if not all of the jumps had blind landings. I was wondering if the track designers build the jumps in such a way that the racers know they have to hit them wide open, in a particular gear, no hesitating. How does one build up to it if you can't even see the landing of the second jump of a triple? I've noticed at local outdoor tracks, when I finally time my power peak to match the takeoff, I clear the scary jumps. There isn't any 5/8 or 3/4 throttle, it's always full. A long time ago, I had the pleasure of watching Ryan Hughes and Jimmy Gaddis practice before the Unadilla National at a supercross style track because nothing else was available to them. Ryan went out first. It was his first time there. He didn't walk the track. He didn't ride a lap. He could only see the track below where he was parked. He took his 125 and cleared every monster triple and stepped down on the first lap. The landings were blind. To this day, I'm baffled, and that was 30 years ago. Thanks in advance, Curious George. Well, listen, you just have to understand that it's a depth perception, hand-eye coordination thing that comes from years and years and decades of doing this. You know, from the time most of these riders are 5, 6, 7 years old, they've been doing this. They've been jumping things and timing them. And when you start practicing supercross and you're doing so many laps every day, you know, week after week, you can look at a triple and just look at the face and go, yep, second gear, third gear, whatever. You know, you just know. It's just one of those things you've done it so many times. You can literally just look at it and you know right how hard to hit it. I wish I had a better formula for you or something, but like it's just muscle memory over and over and over. So, and I will say, I want to tack one thing on here from your comment is that for folks who've never seen a supercross track or a national track from the floor, it's a whole different world. Watching from the stands, from the stadium, the whoops look like little bumps, rhythm lanes that don't look that big. You get on the floor and you see the ruts, you see just the size of everything. It's a different animal. I wish promoters would let fans come and do a track walk either before the race or after or something, just so that they could get some perspective on it, because it's a lot different. Thanks for the letter. I appreciate it, George. Moving on here. This is from S. Owen Hawthorne. It says, David, I enjoy the shootouts and such quite a bit. One thing stands out to me like a sore thumb every time, though. Nobody buys a bike and just rides it as is. I thought of this in the most recent 2 versus 4 shootout on the Yamahas. Both bikes should have a small budget to curtail them to the demands of the riders. Each rider should have an allowance to spend on parts or service. For example, the RMZ 250 should absolutely be tested with the proper suspension and maybe a slip-on. The KTM should have a shockwave valve done if it needs it, and so on. Initially, it just seems like a logistical problem, but what else prevents this? Thank you, S. Owen Hawthorne. Well, there's several issues with this. First and foremost, I think most people want a stock versus stock comparison. In the shootouts or in the tests, we're going to say, you know, hey, this bike, like I'll give you a great example is the Honda 450. In 21 and then again in 22, not as much in 22, but still somewhat, the suspension hinders that bike. But we've said, at least if you listen to my tests, the chassis is good, the motor is good, all the componentry is good. They just missed the suspension setting. And, you know, it's a big target. You're trying to collect every size of rider, every skill level of rider, and coming up with a setting that works well. That's an impossible mission, right? Tom Cruise would not accept. So you have to understand that, but they didn't hit a good setting. And once you, so we're telling you right there, if you're getting the Honda, you're going to want to probably do something with the suspension. So listen to those little keys that we're throwing you. Because, you know, they're not even subtle. We're telling you what needs to be done to these bikes. But the concept is to test them in stock trim back to back to back to back so that you can kind of see who's done their homework. The manufacturers appreciate that. It's really unbiased feedback for them. I always thought we were a pain in the ass doing these shootouts, and they've assured me, no, we really like the feedback. We use that. We take that back to the people doing the R&D, and we try to implement that for models to come. So anyway, and I would also say this, that all of the bikes can be tailored to a rider with some money. You can make any one of these bikes work well for you. If we're just throwing more money at it, it's like, just leave it stock. I don't know. To me, it's just the most simple and clean way to do it. And also, let's say we were going to do exhaust, right? That means you got to get one manufacturer to do all of the bikes, one suspension company to do all of the suspension that's going to be done. It becomes really burdensome and expensive for those guys. So the logistics of it don't work. And I just think, frankly, even conceptually, I don't think it's as clean. So that's why. Appreciate the letter, though. And the last one comes from Perry K. Ping have been pretty stubborn about the coming electric bike movement. But this week, when I saw the marketing for the Stark Varg, I think I may have turned a corner. Is that slick-talking owner just reeling me in with his siren-like Swedish accent? Or is this bike going to be the one that really ushers in the acceptance of electric dirt bikes? Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for your work here and on the Whiskey Throttle Show. Big fan of both. Merry Christmas, Perry K. That accent worked for you, huh? I kept thinking of the Swedish cook from the Muppets. Morgan, you know, I don't know. That was all I got. But he had nice hair, and I imagine he smelled terrific, just from the video. I don't know. Anyway, so here's what I'll tell you about it. I was pretty impressed too. I'm kind of right there with you. I rode the Alta a bit, and while I was impressed with it, I had fun riding it. My thoughts when I got done with the final test was, yeah, we got a long way to go before we're racing electric bikes. Like if this is the best thing we got some time. But I'm watching this video and I'm kind of going, wow, okay, they've kind of hit on everything. 80 horsepower, better torque numbers across the board than any 450, lighter than all the Japanese brand 450s, no power plant maintenance, no air filters. It's waterproof, 1 to 6 hour ride time, depending on how hard you're going, with a 1 to 2 hour charge time from empty. Which means if you go out and do a 20-minute moto, it's not going to be empty. You plug it in between motos, you'd be fine all day. You'd never have to wait for your battery to charge, is my assumption. Real-time digital adjustment. You can add flywheel weight. You can completely, from a phone that sits in the crossbar, adjust the way the power delivers. Like, it's pretty cool. Yamaha's got that on their bike, but it's not as integrated. This is pretty wild. And then you can actually pull it off, put a card in it and use it as your phone. Pretty impressive if it's all accurate. The questions I would have is, does it handle? How is that power delivery? Is it rideable? What's the reliability like? You know, what's that? How many hours can you put on an electric motor before it's tits up? I don't know. I have no idea. Does the power fade as the battery heats up? That was an issue we had with Alta. You know, as it would get towards the end, and they had a last iteration that was better, but it would fade. And I'll tell you this, from riding those electric bikes that I have, the Zero and the Alta, it takes a little getting used to not having a shift lever or not having a clutch. But it's actually, once you get comfortable with it, it allows you to just focus on like your lines and kind of put more focus on your other things that you got going on. So braking and body positioning and technique, things that you're normally, or you're hoping are just happening autonomously because you're worried about shifting and clutch and all of these things. It's like it takes a big part of the equation out, and you're allowed to focus on those other things. And it kind of like made riding, it was different. It was different, but I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm not an electric hater. I know you get on the forum here, there's no shortage of people flaming it and saying they're going to quit riding motorcycles completely if this is what we do. And while I can't imagine the sound of a race with no engines, I'm not poo-pooing these things. I think there's certainly a spot for them. Looks fun. Watching Josh Hill and Matt Rabot and those guys ride that thing looked like a lot of fun to me. So let's just wait and see. I'm gonna have some cautious optimism about this thing, and if it is even close to what the marketing spiel is, this is probably going to be the launch point. And I think you'll see all the other manufacturers dive in with their efforts, because you know they've got them kind of waiting. Timing is everything, and they won't be far behind. So we shall see. Thank you everybody for the questions this week. Again, if you've got video questions, you got some time off for Christmas, you're gonna eat cookies and crap and put on some holiday weight, it's okay. Send me a video. Let's talk about it, or anything you got. Just shoot us a video. We'll answer it right here. Thanks for tuning in to @Ping.